Is the music working?
It is.
It's working for
Sounds
me.
better than
What's
ever.
up, Johnny? Oh man, I heard that music so many times this morning because I've been missing the Blueprint Tour stuff, and that intro I hear so many times. So thanks for tuning in. We have two really interesting guests joining us today. This is a new thing. If you follow the podcast, Carter and I are the co-hosts of the Blueprint Tour, and we travel around. We actually might end up going to Kansas City and checking out the old Aladdin, Zach, and then while I'm down there, hopefully we can swing in and say hey to Johnny, who's going to be on the show today. And then Chad, I can't wait to see what you got going. So what we'll do is just bring on folks, talk about a pretty much an upcoming deal or a previous one if you don't have an upcoming one, riff about it a little bit in terms of anything interesting about it. We are engineers. We're the MEP, HVAC, electrical plumbing nerds. But we also are the founders of Permatip, the Blueprint Tour, and Looksy. And so this is like trying to brand it as, I guess, a game show where we are going to price whatever we talk about on our instant quote and try to wager who's going to get closest without going over. So Chad was here first, so we'll bring him in. And how do you guys know? I guess I'll let you introduce yourself, Chad. What's up?
Hey, fellas. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining. So how did we get connected? Give us a quick intro.
Twitter, I believe. The wonderful place known as Retwit on Twitter, which has a lot of good times and it has some bad times in it. But I think for the most part, we've all had the good times together.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
For all
More
three of
recent
us,
bad times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it got pretty dark pretty quick, man. Yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, it's new for us. We just kind of found it out about it, and then it's like, wow, this is the most effective networking platform out there. How long have you been on Twitter?
I actually have had my account since 2009.
Really?
So about 15 years. But I was like a lot of people that perhaps have even only been on for a short period of time where you spend most of your time just lurking and seeing what's going on. I didn't really dip my toes in and start taking it seriously until about a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And that's when we start trying to interacting with people and try to do meetups outside of the thing. And anytime I travel, I try to meet somebody in person. So I've been on it for a long time, but I didn't take it seriously until recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know about you, but it's like the only social media platform that actually has led to new, real connections with strangers doing interesting things. Like, it's just nothing
It's
else.
completely crazy. Like this year, I got invited to do quail hunting in Atlanta with I'm like, how random is that, right? Like quail hunting,
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. And then I also got to go to the real estate gala in New York. Both
cool.
of those were directly from Twitter. So you're right; it is such a unique and special place for meeting people if you're willing to put the work in and actually connect with people.
Yeah, and then fun things like this whole game show. I found maybe because we're doing this show, my ads are giving me wrestling belts, and I was thinking about buying a wrestling belt and doing some sort of like repeated, like whoever wins. I don't know how to make it gamified quite all the way, but like have a champion and I'll mail it to the champion and just have it be a trophy of honor.
That's a great idea.
However this works out, just to make it fun. And what's neat is Twitter's, folks are participating, and sharing information. Speaking of which, what do you got? What kind of project do we?
Well, I could talk about a few. Like one actually is this building that I'm in right now, which is a really special place in my heart. So I've been worked in industrial real estate for 20 years, predominantly as a broker, but I started investing in properties 10 years ago. And it's funny that this building that I'm in right now, I now own the building with a couple partners, and it's a multi-tenant flex building. So our office is in it. We've got a hot tub store, a cabinet store, an equestrian store, and a flower shop. So it's an industrial building right in an industrial park, but there's not a single industrial tenant. So it's all like retail quasi office.
I was like, should I Google industrial? Maybe I don't know what that actually.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like we call it flex industrial. So it's an industrial building. It's zoned industrial. We did a full renovation on this too. So we expanded our office, did a full tear down of the existing one and rebuilt it. So about 7,000 square feet of office. The whole building's 23,000 square feet. We did a full exterior renovation on the full 23,000 feet. And we're actually just in the process of replacing the second half of the roof. So we did the first half when we bought it. We bought it in 2019. And now the second half had to be done. So that's literally going on right now. They're on top of the roof, building it back up. So,
in the building you're in right now?
Yeah, in the building we're in. I drive by
That's
the
cool.
roofers every day when I pull up here. So it's pretty fun.
So 16,000. So 7,000 of the 23 was office. What was the other 16?
Well, that's the mix. Like the hot tub store is 4,000. So they're quasi industrial because there's a couple overhead doors in there, and they do some work on there. So they're probably actually the only one that's even close to being industrial. But then there's a flower shop. There's a store that sells equestrian supplies. So like pure retailer. They've got a small warehouse as well, cabinet store, and then office.
What kind of tenant would be in the industrial category? Because for me, little red flags go off on here. Industrial types of tenants, things that'll be stored that'll lead to hazardous materials, which will lead to very expensive wiring methods or fans. What's a traditional for you type of industrial tenant?
Yeah, and I do have some buildings that are more traditionally industrial, but the flex one, there's everything. Anything you can imagine can go into flex. Bottle depots, self-storage, art galleries, liquor stores, like you name it. Almost, it's providing the zoning works in that specific municipality. You could put almost anything into a flex. I usually say that industrials, four categories: that flex industrial, manufacturing, warehousing, and industrial outdoor storage. Outdoor storage with yard for the most part. There might be a building with low site coverage. I have some manufacturing tenants that are heavier industrial, and you're right. Like the environmental concern on those ones starts getting pretty high, especially if it's a company that's not doing everything in accordance with what they're supposed to be. Some tenants I would completely stay away from, like anything chrome plating. Dry cleaners. There's that byproduct in the dry cleaning process.
Yeah, I learned that from the strip mall guy posts of these maps of how deep that can pollute the area, the dry cleaning pollution. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
You could pollute the entire state if it gets into the water system. So yeah, it's those ones I'd completely stay away from. But if you're dealing with a big company, I mean, they have to comply with proper ordinances as well. So like they're not going to be sloppy, and if they do cause contamination, for the most part, if you can trace it back to them, they're going to be on the hook. So it's a remarkably complex process. So you start getting into phase 1s, 2s, 3s, and then even 4s. It's like that. It's way above my pay grade.
Yeah, that immediately I would be saying we have this conversation all the time. We're the MEP guys, and a lot of the mechanical. You might say, "Hey, I need a mechanical system for my whatever tenant." In the back of my head, I'm hearing potentially hazardous materials, and then that's a completely separate. We just released a podcast today, actually, in dedicated conversation. If you're in this world and you are worried about whether you're going to have this kind of material, 2 life safety professionals, hour-and-a-half long podcast in Louisville we did, and I just released it today. And that's where people I see get burned in categories around here, because an HJ may suddenly be like, oh yeah, we're going to enforce this commissioning requirement on smoke purge. If your warehouse is over 5,000 square feet or whatever it is, these things can kick in real quick and be really expensive. So that person's $500 an hour time for 3 hours, if you're getting close, is worth its weight in gold. That's our first recommended consultant that we always.
I'll have to check that one out, but you're spot on with all those risks. Like another one that I just dealt with recently was a company that was using a propane forklift, and which is really common. Like propane forklifts are very common to see. And the city found out that they were using it without an air makeup system, basically just a system that circulates. Well, you guys would know air makeups better than me, but they didn't have an air makeup, and they forced them to actually either retrograde the forklift to become electric or add in an air makeup. And the air makeup system was something like 50 grand that they would have had to add. So then they had to go and get a new electric forklift as a result. But that's just, you're right. Like if you're going about your business, everything seems fine. And then all of a sudden you get hit by the city with something you had no idea was even an issue. There's not many people that have a rainy day fund for things like that, or especially small businesses.
Oh yeah. That's what I always. It's maybe a $4,000 consultant service, but man, those life safety guys, they're like the architects. The fire code is two giant tomes of building code, but they also have to know all these NFPA 30, 33, requirements as well. But that being said, we could try to simulate. Here, let me see if I can pull this up. All right, Phil. Oh yeah, I meant to mention, Carter. Doesn't it remind you of that one guy that put gas near his building and that turned into a nightmare for? He was trying to do like a refill station.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, Chad, if you're not familiar, we have this instant quote thing. This is actually something we're going to make available for the full AE industry, like the way we set this up. But we want to make a game out of it. I know the data. This is pretty much all I need to know. 23,000 square feet total. I don't know what to do with the 16. Maybe we can just call it retail, but for now. So that would be 16,000. Phil Carter, correct me if you think I should do this differently, but it seems like we could just roll like this with, what is it, 7,000?
Yep.
Okay.
And to clarify, Kenny, so that we're going to make this available, we're going to make the backend software available for folks to use, but this is available right now for anyone to use on the consumer side.
Yeah. If you want a price from PermitZip, where we're licensed, you can get a price in seconds. But we're going to make a game out of it here. This is the fun having a roof project. I'll just put my name here. So this is admin at PermitZip. You can spam our admin if you want. Project name. So
we do appreciate creative project names. If you do spam us, at least put some thought into it. Oh yeah.
Yeah. We do actually have we've had a lot of other engineering firms run our quotes recently. I'm sure they're trying to figure out how much.
Yeah.
All right.
I wish I could run someone else's quote that no one else.
You may know. I don't know. Whatever you might have done design build. I'm not sure, but now we have to guess. And whoever goes closest without going over wins.
Win something.
Yeah, you can put it in the and if you're listening in, you can send us a comment, or I guess send us on the chat. But we can all type our thing in the private chat.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Just in my answer.
I'm gonna try to think of something before I read it. I don't want to be influenced here. Pure gut check.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I got it.
Closest without going over. All right. Wow, Phil, dang it. That's exactly what all right, so I'm going to do $1 over you.
Jesus Christ. If y'all are close, I'm going way the hell over.
All right, Chad, what is your guess?
I'm trying to make us some money, man. What are y'all doing?
We got burned by Jason last time, so.
All right, so Chad's got 20K. All right, so Phil has 13.5. Again, we are pricing the MEP 3 trade permit drawings for a building that would be 16,000 square feet we're calling it flex, kind of almost retail, flex industrial, but then the 7,000 square feet of office. And 13,500 is Phil's. I went $1 over him. Carter's at 28,000. Chad underbid him, and he might win. Let's see. Let's find out. Drum roll. So this will send you an email with the proposal attached to it, and you'll be able to see the proposal here. But it has all our standard terms and conditions, and there's a lot more cool stuff. If you go to permitzip.app, you'll be able to customize it further.
Come on now.
Dang.
Wow.
Man, me and Phil are really. If we were to give half price on what Phil and I did and that price, we'd really be eating ramen noodles.
Wait, what, Carter? What did you say?
28. So I guess Chad won because I went over.
Yeah,
Chad.
Hey, baby.
Like
you win.
Price is Right rules.
Yeah. Price is Right rules. We're making it up as we go, but that is 100% you win, and you still win because Carter's gonna hook you up with a one-time use if you actually do need engineering 50% discount code. So if this was a project you were doing, you'd be able to get it for half of that. Luckily, it wasn't the 13,000 I said, because that would have been half of that.
That's very cool, and that was fast too.
Yeah. So in my if you run it, you can spam it all you want and play with it, but like it's you can create an account permitzip.app that'll allow you to customize it more. But this is what we call the instant quote. It's just the quick square footage, but we run. If somebody asks us to write a proposal for them, this is where we go. Like that's how
Yep.
good the numbers are. We are specialized in the small. We call it small project, like commercial, these kind of light industrial types of projects. That's all we ever want to do, because nobody wants to do it. So, why not do it all? But so you mentioned I got Johnny. I won't keep you too much longer. I can actually bring in here just to talk with us. Chad, you had another one? Just curious.
I got this guy. I don't know if you saw
Oh,
on-
yeah.
on
That's right.
Twitter. So this is about, I don't know, 15 square inches.
All right, let's do it.
I tried building this model warehouse. So if anyone's like a big train guy, like model trains, you can buy buildings of anything. And I thought I've done one of these before, but I didn't paint it. So I thought I'd go about trying to paint this sucker, and it turned out to just be a complete failure. It looks so bad. Like there's smudges and paint smears, and it looks so bad. So I put on Twitter. I said, "Oh, there are better views. You could maybe see it, like how bad of a painter I did on
Yeah.
this."
That's
So I put on
beautiful.
Twitter.
Front side's
what-
not so bad.
Yeah, there's parts where like this one's not bad. Like that, well, that's pretty bad there too. So I put on Twitter, what should I do with this? Should I blow it up? Should I dispose of it responsibly? A couple options in there, and the poll just closed actually like an hour ago, and overwhelmingly it was to blow it up. So I'm gonna have to blow this sucker up somehow. I don't know, tannerite maybe, fireworks. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do. I gotta make sure I don't go to jail blowing it up. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No,
the other
too.
building that I had.
Make sure you don't need to be licensed for whatever explosives you buy to blow that
Uh,
up. Oh, that's amazing.
like we
Yes,
need a,
do send us a video.
Breaking news sounder.
Yeah.
For that the poll results just now.
Oh, yeah,
Give it-
yeah. We
give-
could have a little video of that building being blown up
This is
as our little
breaking
ticker.
exclusive here on the Instant Quote Show. Chad's gonna blow this little building up.
If you, if,
I'll definitely get a lot of footage of it.
well, let's see. How many square inches is that?
Let's see. I should have a tape measure here. We
I'll
can
call it a
give you a
commercial
really
shell.
precise number. So the warehouse is 7 inches by 5 inches, so
Okay.
35 square inches. And then the little office is 3.5 by 2.
3.5 is a lot.
Yeah, 35
Yeah.
square inches. Like I don't even. That's like not even a quarter of a foot. Wait, 144 is a foot. So let's call it like a tenth of a foot. Let's just see what happens. Let's call it shell. This seems like it's a
This-
shell building.
This might be what breaks your system.
Yeah.
I can't do a decimal, by the way. So we do have to assume it's 1 foot at
1
minimum.
square foot.
1 square foot. You know, it's probably pretty close to it, realistically.
Yeah.
Chad's home.
Chad's new home.
Chad's new home.
Before Chad blows it up, warehouse.
Yep. Let's find out. All right. Well, we got to wager first.
The
This is
trick
all
here
free
is that
trades.
there's going to be like some basic, well, I'm not going to let go of the tricks of the trade here. Who am I kidding? You don't.
Yeah, you're gonna give it away and get Chad. Chad will
Yeah.
be two for oh.
Oh, we
Uh,
had the same guess there.
oh, I was first, so you I guess get the benefit of potentially outbidding me. All right, I for those
Oh,
listening in, I'm at $2,500. Chad's 3,000. Oh, he's now Phil's 3,000. Chad's 1,875. Carter's 23. Shit. Here we go. Now we'll really test to see if there's any bugs in the software.
Can you imagine the conversations we're going to have about duct coordination in this building?
3,700.
Wow, looks like I win.
Wow, Phil.
Wait. Yeah, dang it. Phil. All right, one Phil, one Chad. Wow. That was fun.
So I
And,
guess the interesting thing with that is you now know that that's almost like the minimum, because you're never going to see a building that also. You're almost looking
Yeah.
like for a ballpark minimum $4,000 and up.
yeah, that's kind of where we had a stream a couple weeks ago where we actually showed how we configure, because we're going to give access to other firms the automation, the admin system we built to price, so that it can be widely available on a marketplace. But It's that way. There's like a base fee basically. It's no matter how small it is, we're gonna have to draw like three sheets of something and deal with the permitting. And you don't really want to hire an engineer in that kind of project, but some people do get stuck having to, or even the trade will hire us just because they don't have the time to do it and they just have to. They could pull the permit, but the DC or something's too stringent on their requirements, and so yeah, people end up spending $5,000 or $4,000 on a permit set just to install $3,000 worth of pipe or something. It's crazy. We're gonna bring in Johnny. I'm gonna you can still chill here, Chad, and listen in on us and wager if you want. But I wanted to talk. Johnny has a really cool project I was talking to him about.
Absolutely.
Thanks for bringing that. That was awesome, man.
Thanks,
Real quick, Chad, I know you have your own show. Did you want to say anything about that?
Oh yeah. Chad, tell us what you got. You have a podcast too?
Yeah, and actually Carter is going to come on and we're going to nerd out about electricity in an industrial capacity. I'm a host of the Industrial Real Estate Show, a podcast just about industrial real estate.
Oh,
we cover everything imaginable. So I think Carter and I will have an awesome chat about industrial power. And I know how important it is just being in this space, but to have someone with your background on, I think it's going to be a huge value to the audience too.
That's awesome,
definitely.
man. And we'll have to swing by on our way around as we tour. I try to be cool as engineers being on tour and stop by and set up. We like to be in person on ours just to set up, but it's a big project, a big undertaking. But it forces us to get out of our house and actually see other humans. Otherwise, as engineers, we would never, ever leave the house. Chad, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, fellas. I'll still be here in the background putting in my guesses.
Wager. All right.
Thanks, man.
Hey, Johnny. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. I was telling Phil and Carter, who's with us now, they're from PermaZip with me, the co-founders, and about our awesome chat yesterday and this cool building that you had told me about. So why don't you do a quick intro for everybody here?
Hey, first of all, I want to say Chad has a much better voice than I do for this kind of thing. So I have a face for radio. I enjoyed our chat yesterday. It was really good for me. I learned a lot. So the project, you want me to just jump into the project or?
Sure. Or, give you a quick background on yourself or whatever, Johnny Jepson, right? From Twitter.
Yeah. So I've been,
not Twitter.
Formerly from Twitter. I'm on hiatus currently because I don't have the bandwidth in my life to manage that and all the other things that I have going on. But then you and I hooked up, really kind of by chance, right? I hopped on Twitter Spaces, and then you were on there, and so that was kind of weird, actually, that happened, or fortuitous, one or the other. So I've been in the construction world basically my whole life. Started when I was 15, and then worked for a custom home builder, and then became a GC myself, and have done builds, restoration. I've done historic restorations. We've worked in done hotel remodels for some larger hotel chains in the U.S. And then we've also done light commercial. So that's kind of my background. 32 years now in that industry. We focus more on residential just because we find there's more money in residential for us anyway in our local market. But we do have customers that still drag us into commercial projects, or like the project I'm going to talk about today was kind of a quasi commercial project.
It's like something from Harry Potter,
dude. Yeah, I was looking through those photos. I should send you. There was this crazy building, right? It's like if you like old historic buildings, this was built in 1897. So old building. About 5,000 square feet, was built by a doctor, and has always actually been used for the healing arts of one variety or another. So when I first saw it, it had just been purchased, and the new owner called me and said, "Hey, can you come over and take a look at this project?" Well, so like I told you, I went over there and looked at it, and my first thought was, well, hell, this only needs everything.
Yeah.
It probably needed to be torn down, quite honestly, from a cost perspective. But she loves historic buildings, and she wanted to. The new owner ran a therapy practice, and she's
Mhm.
like, I want a building where my clients can come in and feel like they're in my home, and I want something that feels warm and inviting and comforting, and not a cold commercial space.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why she bought this particular building. And yeah, the fake tree. Gotta love that, right? Yeah, so I pull up, and that's the first thing I see is this fake tree with this waterfall coming out of it. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And the seller had run a therapeutic massage business out of this place. I think he used the term therapeutic loosely. There was some strange stuff going on in that building.
People were paying maybe a little extra.
I mean, the story has a happy ending. So
Yeah.
That says it all.
at any rate, so we walk through the building, and it's old. It hasn't been touched really since the 1970s, and it's got cobbled up mechanical systems that are a combination of really old stuff and some newer stuff added onto it. Like I was telling you yesterday, Kenny, there were 5 200 amp electrical panels in the building.
Yeah.
But there was
Carter will like that.
Yeah, there was only 100 amp service running to the building. So
nice.
So we kind of got a problem here, and then most of the wiring that as it was coming into the panel was the covers off most of the panels, and the wiring is just coming in through the front of the panel, just hanging loosely. And so I'm like, okay, well, this whole thing's got to be redone. Super challenging as far as just like physically getting mechanicals to where they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously in 1897 they weren't building homes for modern mechanicals. Just doesn't happen. So that was the good part of the building was also masonry. All the exterior walls were masonry, and then there were load-bearing interior walls that were masonry as well. And masonry, we're talking about 12-inch thick concrete walls with plaster on both sides. So that added to the because we're having to either design around the structure or go through it. And then there were design considerations from the point of, okay, if this is structural, then, what can we take out without compromising, the integrity.
Didn't you say they had built more like house around a porch or something? You started opening the walls, and there was an old porch that they just swallowed up with the house.
Yeah, we were literally demoing a portion, and there had been an addition that they had put on in the 50s, and as we're tearing these walls out, we start discovering these columns and these short walls with beadboard and stuff on them, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And turns out that had been the exterior of the house, and it was a porch, a covered porch that had been enclosed when they added the addition in the 50s. So we actually restored that area, and it looks like when you walk into the building, the foyer looks like a front porch, which is actually it's kind of cool because the owner wanted to just keep that. There were some hidden rooms that we found. We found a bathroom that was completely walled off. It was a large bathroom, probably a 10 by 10 room. No one knew existed. And it had a sunken shower in it. So I've never seen this before. It was probably a 5 by 8 shower that you walked down 5 steps to get into the shower. So it was below the
Jeez.
and
Like abysmal.
yeah, the shower head was actually basically at the floor level.
Yeah.
And the shower was recessed below that. And I don't know if it could be used as a tub as well. I mean, it was all tile. So maybe it held water. I don't know. But anyway, we did away with the sunken shower. I've never seen one of those before. And then there was also a room that had a bunch of wooden poles suspended from the ceiling and leather seats built into the walls with handholds, and it was super weird. Mirrors everywhere and this fake green. Kenny, I should have sent you a picture of this. Well, anyway, we affectionately named this room the BDSM room.
Yeah.
And to this day, I talk to the owner from time to time. She uses that as her office, and she still
As
calls
BDSM.
The vibes are right. The vibes
yeah,
are right.
Yeah, just might as well.
just
This
strange. The whole house is just full of strange stuff. But the challenge was obviously making this a functioning office, and then making everybody, of course, comfortable. There were, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 4 baths in the. No, there were 3 baths, and we added a 4th. So now there's a total of 4 baths in the house. And so getting plumbing to all those. And then since there was a lot of offices from a mechanical standpoint, we wanted to be able to control the temperature in each office. And then you had issues with there's no insulation in the house. The exterior walls were okay because they were all clay tile.
Were there any like single pane glass in it or anything like that?
Oh, it was all single pane glass, but we put all new windows and doors.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, put all new windows and doors in it. But then upstairs, there was several offices kind of built into the roof line. There were several bedrooms up there that we turned into offices. And so that was even more challenging. Now the parts that we demoed, we were able to do spray foam insulation, and that helped. But just the mechanical portion was just really a nightmare.
There's a lot of solutions people will try in that situation, like the high velocity stuff with the small duct. It's like, I've seen it in residential. The name of the game with that, if it's strict code compliance, is operable windows, because otherwise you get stuck with ventilation. Office use is probably fine, but conference rooms have higher levels of ventilation. But any amount of fresh air that you got to put on them coils is going to make the tonnage go up, which makes the ductwork get bigger. And the name of the game is put holes in the walls that it can open, and that'll get rid of the operable. I mean, those operable windows will get rid of that ventilation requirement, but you're still stuck with. We talked about this being as comfortable as you can afford. Did we lose him? Oh, we lost him. He'll probably hop back in. So if you're tuning in, Johnny's going over really a wild project. He sent me a lot of photos of. Maybe I'll put, with his permission, some of them, or maybe he can post on the thread of this. But never-ending crazy surprises. And this is, if you're a developer or a contractor, I'll speak for the engineer. This is the kind of project that we will be told you did it for the drawings as engineers. If we design anything like that, that's that crazy for adaptive reuse. So we've actually moved away from it, and I would urge you not to do a design bid for this kind of project. It's just a disaster waiting to happen. You're going to get people low bidding, and then they're going to just destroy those drawings. Every tiny little, what will be called a mistake, it'll just be a pissing match. So instead, find an engineer you trust and find a contractor or a builder you can trust and go design assist. You don't get the benefit of the bidding war at the early stages, but I can almost guarantee you that it'll be cheaper at the end by the end of it. If Johnny's, I don't know if he lost signal or his phone died, but we can price his project if he doesn't come back. So that was the first thing that came to my mind as he was talking about it. The thing that we have with Josh, Phil Carter, that same project. It's huge CapEx thing with the two chillers. One of these chillers used to serve a building that was across the street, and it's been abandoned. It's crazy. So it's the same thing with. Hey, welcome back, Johnny. Bring you back in.
Hey,
what's
sorry
up,
about that.
Yeah, I was just telling Carter and Phil in the audience that the design assist thing that we talked about for this kind of project with the if we were asked to do engineering on a job like that, we would either not want to do it if it was going to get bid, or work with somebody we trusted at like a contractor that we've had a relationship with and just say, we're going to find stuff and they're going to design it and we're going to move a wall and that design is going to have to be thrown out the door. We're going to have to redesign it a couple times, but it's better than if it went to bid and then you as the contractor are getting nailed with change orders every single time you turn around.
Right.
That's not a comfortable place to be in. And then it just becomes a pissing match. But you had a different experience. You actually had somebody who trusted you to make decisions, right?
Yeah,
on that
well,
project.
that was the fun part of this project is we actually did the project on a handshake.
That's wild.
The owner she walked me through the house 30 minutes and then she said, what do you think? And do you want to do it? And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And we discussed terms. We constructed it as a cost plus project. And I told her that what she initially wanted to spend, I told her was ridiculous. It wasn't going to be it was going to be much higher than that, but I couldn't tell her how high. And we just set some guidelines. It's cost plus. She gets to see all the numbers for everything, and then like Kenny, you and I talked about, what's the decision making protocol, right? So, like, what level of decision do you want to be involved in? And we talked about that. And I said, is it a $500 decision? Is it a $5,000 decision? Is it a $10,000 decision? And she said, anything that's $5,000 or more, I would like for you to run by me. But anything below that, just make that decision, use your best judgment. And it worked really well. And so I didn't even ask my mechanical contractors to bid anything until we got all the walls opened up and all the demo done.
Yeah.
Which was extensive. I told you, Kenny, we pulled 44 40-yard roll-offs out of that project. I mean,
yeah,
amount.
If you're a developer or a contractor or engineer and you're hearing this and it's anything other than a complete gut job, historic tax credit thing, we've done those, right? If you got the whole warehouse that used to scrap metal and put apartments, that's pretty easy. But if it's like this and it's a surgical procedure, then yeah, be careful because you're just gonna get burned. It's not good for anybody unless you have similar. I like where you negotiate. It's like, hey, we're gonna come across things. How high of a tolerance do you have to trust me to just make a decision and roll with it? And even with your trades, just don't even worry about looking at it. Let me just get all the demo done, and then they can get a good
we
look.
did ask for pricing from trades, although a lot of my trades, and I do this with a lot of my projects, I get a general price from them, and then they just bill me for time and material. And a lot of people go, well, I can't trust someone to do that. What I have found over the years is, as an owner or me as a GC, I get a better deal out of my subs if it's time and material. Because I'm only paying for what is being done. The same thing with an owner. Most people don't believe this, but a cost plus job is always going to cost less than a bid job. It just is. I'm going to add stuff in my bid to cover my butt, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just paying for what you are actually getting, the overall cost is going to be more reasonable on a cost plus job. Now, the one caveat would be is you have to trust the people you're working with, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yep, that's the most important thing, and then you can roll. Things are gonna happen. but if you've been through fire, I'm sure if you've been in doing it long enough, you've been through fire with a few trade folks that and you've gone through it, and then you're on the other side. It's almost like having a fight with your brother or something. It's like, all right, all right. So we got how many square feet was it? Did you say 7,000?
It's 5,000.
5,000. Sorry, 5,000 square feet. Was that including the added square footage?
That's total square. That does not include the basement, but the basement was unfinished. So total finished, it would be 5,000 foot.
Two other things. Just want to note technical. If you're listening to the story, that could come up with this is the wiring methods could be problematic. Probably Carter if it was all NM, and depending on the use being commercial, it might have MC can't be. It can be within sheetrock, right, and not above drop tiles, so it could be fine, right, Carter? You're the engineer.
Everything was hard. everything was hard to live. So there was no drop going anywhere.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then plumbing, for at least some jurisdictions, that one's fun because as soon as you add a fixture, depending on the jurisdiction, suddenly a 1 inch or 1.5 inch meter shows up that nobody wants to buy. But that we have an article on our website if you want to learn about the water meter surprise. If you're a seasoned developer contractor, you've been through it. So let's try it. Let's see. I think that we're gonna get burned on this one. Luckily, this is a already done project.
Yeah.
But let's give it a shot. Let me see. Why is my screen up? Okay. So 5,000 square feet. Where do we put this under, Carter? Phil, what category?
I'd say office, right? They're using it as your therapy.
Yeah.
Or do you have a historic restoration category? No.
I should. We do have the ability to tell us more about it, like adaptive reuse and that on the advanced version. And if you're listening, it's permitzip.app, app. The one that we're looking at today that I can't seem to, I think it's because I have too many screens.
Okay.
Where's my screen? Let me stop sharing and start. Phil, I didn't mean to kick you off, Phil. I was pressing buttons. There we go. We're back. Bring Phil back into the game. All right. He's back in. All right. And Chad's still here, so he can bet too. And if you're listening, you can play. So we are going to price this as a 5,000 square foot office. And, the question was asked, can I put it as a historic or adaptive reuse or historic tax credit? The answer is yes. We have the ability to kind of configure on the back end, and we'll do another live stream for people to see that. But it does get more expensive, but this has some defaults, and it doesn't really apply here. But in any case, not shell. Let's go to office. All right. This one will be all 3 trades. This is not Chad's home project anymore.
Yeah, it's blown up by now. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Johnny's Harry Potter house.
Harry Potter house. That's great.
Yeah. So we'll give you a promo code that you can use for being a guest, but for the meantime, let's see how much we think it'll be. Carter, is that your answer?
Yes.
Dang. I feel like I'm low.
We need Chad and Stuart to start pricing our stuff.
I know, right? Johnny's at 15. All right, so we have a private chat if you're tuning in, and we're all guessing. Carter has at 15,000. I'm at 8.5. Phil's 12.5. Johnny's 15, and then Chad.
He's at 21.5. Chad's 21.5.
Oh, sorry, Chad. I totally missed that. Okay, so he's at 21.5. Dang.
He got in early.
Yeah.
Props for being the first one.
Jeez. All right. I hope I get 21.5. Let's find out.
Damn.
Oh, man. Yeah, I had a feeling we were going to lose our ass on this one. I'll bring in Chad just for fun.
Yeah.
Hey, Chad. Welcome back.
that's not much more than my 1 square foot building.
Yeah. So we got took on this one. Luckily, this one already got done because on top of that, it's also a crazy ass renovation.
Yeah, you guys are losing money on that one for sure.
Oh yeah. That one's we're gonna make friends and get real close to whoever's on the team for that one. That's for sure. You'll notice if you guys are running it and you want to test it for yourself, it'll break down some of the assumptions on the inside of it. So we'll say, like, if it's a restaurant, for example, we'll assume that the kitchen is some percentage of the square footage, and so you can tweak it. If it's something that has a smaller or larger kitchen, then you can customize that on the permissive.app version, but you got to sign up for that. But then that'll let you kind of tune it in. And that's how some people are like, my scope's a little different. We'll on the back end just kind of update the assumptions and tune it. But this 80-20 rule, we win some, we lose some. It's not about winning on every single project. Of course, we're in the business of net operating income. We do earn and want to earn profit, but there's a certain amount of time for running these proposals that just it doesn't make sense. So this kind of job we would consider a relationship building experience.
Yeah.
And learn from it and move on, because I know we would win on the others and just get through it. But also, if Johnny, the same thing, if you can be on this, it'd be like the friend I was telling you about, like, hey, we just need to talk to the owner and set some expectations and make sure we're on the same page. And then it would be, then that could potentially be a number that works, because we would spend most of our time consulting and not drawing, like you said, not even asking for the price from your trades until you had them down, the walls down, right? We could consult and get people help along the way, and then we're ready to strike, put together drawings, and we probably could stay under budget if we were strategic like that.
It's like you said yesterday. It's about people, and it's building that relationship. And once you have that relationship, the money becomes secondary, and it's much easier to get money out of people. If they have trust there, if that underlying trust is there, then that fixes so many things. So
do you know Chad, Johnny, Chad?
I don't think we know each other.
We're all on Twitter, so
I don't know. I may follow you on Twitter. I don't know. I mean, I'm on Retweet or was on Retweet, I guess. So who knows? Maybe.
What's your handle on there, Johnny?
It's at Jepson Johnny.
Let me check. If I'm not, I will rectify that right now.
I hang out in the creative side of Retweet.
Oh yeah, totally. It's just, this is the book. If you want to hang with his crew, you got to read this and then spend 15 years trying to understand what they're saying. But
it's not quite that bad.
It's incredible though. The ideas that they have.
12 years.
Yeah, 12 years. Hey, it's already been influential for our business and given us tons of ideas. So I'm totally hooked on just whenever I see a spaces with y'all, I'm gonna just listen in, because it's crazy how creative it actually is out in that space. But I really appreciate you guys doing this. This is awesome. This is exactly what we hope for. Just some folks talk about some real actual projects with Chad and the industrial side where things can hang up. I definitely recommend checking out that podcast that just came out today. If you're in that world, because those guys, in fact, Austin, who is the guest, he runs a company called Performance-Based Fire Protection Engineering. He got somebody off the hook for some stairwell pressurization thing because he does CFD modeling. So it was like $8,000 for his service, but it was 150 of fans that they didn't have to buy for some atrium. So it's all their kind of, I guess if you were to say creative real estate or creative financing, like these fire protection guys are kind of at that level for fire protection. It's a performance-based analysis, so they're great. And I always bring them to the table if I start getting the sense, like Chad, if I was working with you, that maybe you want to talk to Austin, and it might be a $300, he might do it for free, but it might be a $300 you're good, or maybe, before we get too far, let's talk about it type thing. Those life safety guys are worth their weight in gold when you have somebody that can help pull them into the game when it's necessary. And then Chad, Johnny, of course, for your story, that was awesome. I absolutely love that story, and I'll have to swing by your way. I don't know when we're doing
country, look me up.
Yeah, dude, we're going out there. So
we got to do a blueprint tour in the BDSM room.
Yeah, we'll
Dig up the old shower.
In a BDS blueprint. Well, it looks different now, so but I do have pictures. Yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, you
Share
guys
it.
get out this way. If you're coming to KC or something, we'll get together and have some barbecue.
Oh yeah, sounds delicious.
Oh yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I appreciate it. I'm gonna wrap up with Carter and Phil. But cheers. Thank you so much. You get discount codes, Carter, if you could send it to them so that if you have something coming up, you can use it. It's a one-time 50% off. And maybe you'll get lucky and get one of these prices and it's half off. Who knows? Or we just, hang out and see each other. But hopefully that's useful for you. Thank you for being a guest. I'll see y'all around.
All right.
Thanks, fellas. Have a great
Cheers.
day.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that was cool. Thank you so much. So that's kind of the idea of if you're tuning in, that's the idea of the game. We made it up last week and we started making it up more today.
Like we always do.
Yeah. Do you hear that?
Sorry, I was playing with this pen.
Somebody's calling. So we're wrapping up here soon. We got just 9 minutes. That if you do want to try to get a last minute in, if you're tuning in and want to give it a shot and have a 50% engineering discount code, you can scan that, or I don't know how to send the link. There's a link you could call. Just shoot us a DM, or if you want to join, we'll send you the link. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of talk briefly on some reflections. What do you guys think? Anything from those jobs that give you PTSD from previous?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I'm seeing a lot more of it too, just like in life, this flexible industrial space that just seems like it's so much cheaper and simpler for people to get into that. And if you have a client base, if you're not like a fast food place, then, and you have a client base that specifically like hot tub people, you can't just go anywhere and get hot tub, repairs or whatever. So yeah, it makes sense for a class of tenants that otherwise would be spending way more money to have an established space and not really be getting that much of a benefit from it. So it's definitely it's like a secret, well-kept secret. Probably.
We should do a light industrial. What is that category called? Anyway,
flex industrial.
Yeah, flex industrial. Because that's what Mr. Leslie. Yeah, no, that's what Mr. Leslie Groves is doing, and I guess it does. It makes sense in a lot of ways, but it immediately triggers my engineering brain to say, be careful with the tenant and be aware of don't put paint booths in there. We have a job that's a thing, and that is crazy. There's a lot of things that a life safety professional in that category is really the person with the architect. Don't expect the architect to know and catch all that stuff. If you listen to the podcast we released today about life safety, there's so much to know about just life safety engineering, fire protection, or people that you think maybe just do sprinkler work, that those guys are all specialized in their own categories. They can't cover the amount of code. So don't think your architect's going to cover you. And I'm not speaking bad about architects. They just can't. I mean, they already have their hands full being a generalist of trying to keep their head at every single thing, like, oh, maybe you should call this person. But as engineers, we see it all the time. We're way closer to oh God, you're going to have to replace all of this conduit because it needs to be explosion proof. If only you had put a wall right here or something, or if you just stored this out here, there's things that they can teach you or guide you through that'll completely change whether you need an explosion proof fan or a smoke purge system or controls or some commissioning requirement. Sometimes you can't get around it, but worse than that is not knowing it's applicable to your project. And then that's going to be something that's a 25% construction budget problem for a smaller, project. So
I think another, yeah, go ahead. I was going to say another well-kept secret is
away, take that away. But yeah, go ahead.
The other well-kept secret is that design assist
yes
method. I get the main advantage of that bid process is to have it be competitively bid out, but you're missing out on a lot of opportunity. Even if you don't go full design assist all the way through, if you just pay a contractor a couple $1,000, engineer, architect, a couple $1,000 total for all those folks up front to just get you an over under on what's going on. you'll find out a lot. Your design documents will be much easier to bid from. You can still bid it out if you want, or you could just go with that team, but you're going to get a lot out of that up front that you wouldn't otherwise get if we start designing things before the walls are even opened up.
Yep. So those are the biggest takeaways. Design assist, and if you're in the flex industrial, just be aware of the tenant requirements. Crack open the fire code, just see what kind of things may trigger it. Storage over square footage will, and you can decide to ventilate it. I think even Chad brought that up. I feel like somebody brought it up. You can either ventilate with the natural ventilation or with fans. It can burn you because it's if you listen to that podcast, I ask them the question: how often are you called in a situation where it's a nightmare for somebody? And that's if you know a life safety professional, chances are a good amount of their work calls is from something being noticed almost at CO. That's a $60,000 engineering fee. That's just the engineering for them to tell you what $2 million problem you're dealing with. Like, so
Yeah.
to not spend the $3,000 on the early consulting with that specialist is, in my mind, it's just outrageous. It's just crazy. And to expect that you're going to be penny wise, pound foolish, and trust the architect who's great at what they do, but they're not like reading that. I mean, you guys don't even know these life safety guys. They like hang out and talk fire code at the barbecue. That's like all they do. I guess it's kind of what we're doing, but they're really into it, and it's crazy how deep they go into it. So if you take nothing else away and you're in that weird kind of occupancy category, go with them. And if you want a mechanic, you should also consider a mechanical engineer if you're in a category where there's going to be a lot of people, because that tonnage that you think can work on 350 square foot per ton is just not going to work. That's when you call us. We'll help you figure out how to not get it to 150 square foot. But so we're going to wrap up next week, 1 o'clock. If you want to be a guest, we'll talk about a project. We'll riff. Maybe there's something cool you did with the financing or a struggle that you anticipate. We'll, as engineers, give whatever kind of things that we know that might be helpful. And we will run a quote and guess what the price will be, and ultimately start tracking the winners and give a wrestling style belt or something like that to whoever is the current champion of the Instant Quote Challenge. And along the way, at least temporarily, guests will be getting a one-time use half price coupon. So all the prices you saw today, they would be able to buy for half that price. We gave away $100,000 last week. So
Notice
we're stopping
that
at 250.
we all, for the most part, guessed wrong on those prices, but those prices are the prices. We're not going to change it just because we guessed it wrong. We'll just have to go and adjust it if it doesn't make sense for us next time. So it's real. That's where you can go to our website, and that is the actual price for it. And you could sign a contract and we could get started right then.
We do have to be licensed in your state.
Yes.
Yep.
But we'll get licensed if you really,
You have to be licensed in your state.
We cannot give you a price if we're not licensed in your state, so not eligible, but we can still get an idea of what services generally cost. And then if you have a real project, we can go through the licensing procedure. It usually takes 2 to 3 months, just because we're about to open up in Ohio. We're on most of the East Coast and Texas and Indiana, incidentally. But anyhow, thank you so much, Phil Carter. That was fun. Thank you to everybody that's listening. Click the link. Phil, maybe if you can put the link, if you want to be a guest, we're doing this at least for 3 more times. You can click and request to be on an episode. It's very simple. Just your email and who you are. And if you got a good project, we'll bring you on and we'll riff. So that being said,